So 5 days since Dad and Mo left the club, we're still none the wiser as to the reasons for that departure. There's been a few theories that have sort of come and gone. The first theory that was gaining any traction was that he'd had the rug pulled from under his feet in terms of the budget and the transfers. I don't think there's any stock in that. Dad and Mo himself told us 2 weeks ago that he'd made 2 lists of players, one if we stayed in Division 1 and another list if we went to the Championship. And since Mo's departure, the chairman has reiterated that we are going with that Championship player list, one that Dad and Mo helped to write up, so I don't think there's anything in that one at all. The second theory was that it might be about the targets for the season. Dad and Mo, obviously working within the budget constraints, had drawn up a list of players which he thought would help consolidate Wednesday's position in the Championship this season, get us probably a mid-table finish and try and build on there again. And I think most realistic Wednesday fans would be happy with that. If you said mid-table, nowhere near the drop zone, I think most would take that and looking to push on again next season. The manager clearly would. The chairman's come out though and said he would want a top 6 finish. I'm not sure that that's enough for them to agree to part ways. I'm not sure that the chairman particularly believes that, if I'm honest with you. I think sometimes when in a position like Chancery's like that, you sometimes feel like you have to say that you're aiming for the stars, even if you don't particularly believe it. Oh yeah, top 6. Would that be enough for him to have a bit of a falling out? I'm not sure, because I'm not sure he'd believe that himself. Do you remember Gary Monk's press conference when he was unveiled? Yeah, it's a tough job, we ain't got a lot to spend. Wednesday's had a ropey season, but like camera pans to Chancery. Yes, we're going for a title this season. And Gary Monk's face like that. I think sometimes people say things that they think the supporters want to hear, even though I think most Wednesday fans are quite realistic and would accept mid-table if he told us that's what the budget is. So I don't really see much in that. The third theory that's been doing the rounds is that it's about the length of the contract, and that Dad and Mo would want a longer deal than he was being offered. I'm not even sure about that, because this rolling 1-year contract business, that's happened since Dad and Mo joined the club. Chancery's reiterated that players and staff aren't going to get long-term contracts before, because that's stiffed us for a lot of money in the past. He's at least learning on that score. But would that put Dad and Mo off and make him feel like he had to resign? I'm not so sure, because they're the conditions he's worked in since day one that he walked in the club. Why would it change now? Perhaps because his stock's higher than it's ever been. He's just got a team promoted, just gone through a season with 96 points. His stock will be high. A lot of clubs would take a manager who could deliver that. So maybe he's asked for more in them terms. But I would say there's more stability in having a 1-year rolling deal than being unemployed. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure about that. The only way I could see that holding true is if you maybe merged theory number 2 about the targets for the season, if that's genuinely what Chancery believes top 6, and the length of contract. Dad and Mo might look at that and say that's an unachievable target, and with a 1-year contract I'm probably going to be gone by Christmas anyway. So those 2 theories together might be enough, but we're still none the wiser to knowing, and the truth is we probably never will know. They did that parting statement, which they both put to, wished each other all the best and said they got a bit of respect for each other and that, you know, go their separate ways. Now Dad and Mo's probably had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, so we're never going to find out from him. And the chairman said he's not going to talk about it. Well, he said he's not going to talk about it. Well, that being the case, stop talking about it. Put an official statement out, people are still asking questions and they're pondering, and fans are going to wonder what went off, because you do, it's natural inquisition. But the chairman's now come out and said, oh, it went to do with budget, so don't like that. It's not fair enough. But it is about something, and I'm telling you now, if you knew what it was about, you'd 100% agree with me. But that's telling us absolutely nothing at all. That's just like sprinkling flakes on top of a fish tank, innit, and watching Frenzy. If you're not going to say out, don't say out at all. Don't stick spoon in and start muddying waters. You've put a statement out, and when people ask questions, I say, I refer you to the original statement. We've made that, we're saying no more on that subject. But this, it's... If you knew, you'd agree with me. That reminds me of when you see kids in schoolyard and be 3 or 4 laughing, and you know, and someone will walk past, oh, what are you laughing at? Oh, something right bad's gone on. Oh, what? Can't tell you. We all know, but we can't tell you. It's a bit like that, isn't it? But there's an excuse for them, aren't they? Because the young kids finding their way in the world and they're learning about communications and interacting with people. And that's when they first discovered that words and knowledge have power and hold over other people, and it comes across a bit like that. I expect it from a 10-year-old kid, not really from a grown man, but there we go. I do find myself very frustrated at times with Mr. Chansiri. I tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me, you know, when somebody's working on a computer, but they're a bit cack-handed, and they like that with keyboard, and they're scrabbling about with mouse, and you stood behind them, and you're just like, open a new tab, and you're itching to grab mouse off them. Get here, I'll show you. Do you know what I mean? Like when you see one of your mates in Boozer a bit pissed up, and you're like, give me keys, give me car keys, I'll drive you home. Just give me keys. No, do you know what I feel that sort of frustration watching things unfold at club. Anyway, we're none the wiser why Darren Moore's gone. We probably never will know. And we're none the wiser as to who we're going to get. It's been 5 days since he's been gone. Nothing official from the club other than that we are going through it and looking at people. The season ticks ever closer. We ain't got a player in the door yet, despite the fact we've released players. So Stockdale's gone, Hunt's gone, Adeniran's gone. And yesterday, Delibishino went. He's gone to Turkey. We desperately need to get somebody in to take the rudder of this ship. Now, there's been some runners and riders, according to the bookies. Don't pay too much heed to that. I mean, if I put a fiver on my sen, I'd probably come in top 50 on odds list. You know what I mean? 50 to 1, Chef Cam. Oh, so, but we'll just look at the top runners and riders anyway, just to have a look at who he's been touted. First on the list, Steven Gerrard. When I talked about this other day in the last video that I did, that these young retired players always get touted in these lists. Gerrard obviously won a title with Rangers in Scotland, I think that was 2020, and they did have a season where they were unbeaten, which is a good achievement for them. I'm sure he's held in high regard by Rangers fans. And I don't want to, you know, denigrate Scottish football here, though, by putting down that achievement of winning a title there. But genuinely, I would fancy our Leicester finishing top 2 if she were in charge of one of Old Firm clubs. You know, it is what it is up there, but it is a two-team race, isn't it? Came down to Villa. Obviously, he's got contacts in game. Managed to get some big players in there. 2 wins in 12 though. Before his second, he comes in, that Emery, who would deem not good enough for Arsenal, and had to perform a bit of a rescue job on him because their season was slipping from the off. So Gerrard, for me, I think he's got a lot to prove yet, certainly in this game. And as it is, I don't think he'd come in anyway, because I think he's from a generation of former players, top flight players, who seem to believe that they should work almost exclusively in the top flight, despite the fact that some of them's got 0 to little coaching experience. I know he managed to coach Liverpool's youth team and reserve team for the year or so before he went to Rangers, but I don't think a lot of Premier teams will take that gamble again. You're literally just banking on a name as a player when you've got no idea what their attributes are as a coach or a manager. And for what it's worth, like I said, I don't think Gerrard would be interested in coming to Wednesday under those constraints that we know we've got in terms of the budget, the transfer targets, and obviously a 1-year deal. But I don't think he'd drop down. Also on top of that, of course, from a personal point of view, he did lose a relative in '89 there, and I think that would make an odd experience for the manager stood in home dugout looking up there every other week. But like I said, I don't think he'd be interested. I mean, he's probably looking across and thinking, Frank Lampard keeps getting top jobs and he's done absolutely no. So I'll wait for my chance. I'll get another one. Another name that's come flying onto the list in the last 24 hours or so is Paul Ince. Paul Ince, different in that generation thing from like Gerrard and Lampard, and this is where I've got a lot of respect for Paul Ince actually. Decorated player, played for his country, played for, in my eyes, the two biggest clubs in England with Manchester United and Liverpool, played for Inter Milan. But when he started coaching and managing, he said, I'm a novice at this, I need to learn my trade. And he was prepared to drop down to Macclesfield Town. And I respect that. I really do. Rather than thinking, oh, I'll hang about, I'll get a top job in top division. I respect that he dropped down there. And from Macclesfield he went to MK Dons, where he actually did a really good job. Won him the, I think it was the FA Trophy, Championship in League 2, and then he got his chance at Blackburn Rovers. Didn't have the greatest of times at Rovers. Not many managers have they, since Kenny Dalglish, but something happened while he was there, and it was a bit of light-hearted fun and match of the day, but I don't think he ever recovered from it. They were losing a game, and the camera zoomed in on him in the dugout with his notepad, and literally it just said shoot on it in big letters, you know, tactical insight, and it was a bit of a light-hearted joke. But these things, you know, they can attach himself to somebody, and they can hold you back. You can get stuck with a stigma of that, even though it's just a little bit of a joke. From Blackburn, he tries to rebuild again, goes back to MK Dons, where he'd had that success early on. But here's the thing, in football, it's not always about whether you're a great coach, or a crap coach, or a great manager, or a poor manager. Sometimes it's just about timing. Time, person, place. First time he went there, fantastic. Second time, didn't really do anything. Had a spell at Blackpool. Nice spell at Blackpool. He gave them their greatest ever start to a season, 12 wins out of 14. I thought, oh, hang on, maybe he's showing that again he can do something. But then they went from November to January without a win, and he got sacked. So, an up and down career. Most recently, of course, he was at Reading, relegated last season. People say you're only ever as good as your last job. I think there's a lot of problems at Reading on and off the pitch and behind the scenes, so I don't think he can take the entire blame for what's happened at Reading, although as a manager you do tend to carry the can for that. Would I want Paul Ince? Not in particular. He's not someone who inspire me. I'm not sure he's someone who inspire the players, if I'm honest with you. But none of us know whether a manager's going to be good or bad before they come in the door. Like I said, it's about timing, person and place. I mean, look at that Nathan Jones. Fantastic job at Luton, went to Stoke, didn't do anything at all. Went back to Luton, did a great job again. Went up to Southampton, terrible. Is he a good coach? Is he a bad coach? It's not just about coaching, it's about being able to get the message to the players. And when he's at Luton, as I talk about again, right man, right time, right environment for him. He manages to get results when he's at Luton Town. When he's left Luton, he hasn't been able to do that. Might be a great coach, might be a terrible one, but when he's there, he does well. I think the higher up you go as well, it's harder to get your message across because you're dealing with different personalities, different individuals. When you're in the top flight, you're dealing with multi-millionaires. How much harder is it to get your message across to people? The lower down you go, that you have got more authority over those players. The higher up you go, I'm still getting paid 100 grand a week. Do you know what I mean? So, time and place, I think, is the main thing with manager, and a little bit of luck as well. Paul Ince, would he inspire me? Not in particular. Would he be a good or a bad manager for Wednesday? We don't know. But there's no way of knowing. Would he be interested in the job? Almost certainly would. This is what I talked about in my video the other day. Who's this job going to appeal to? Because there's certain things that he knows in place. The players on the transfer target list are coming in respective of who the manager is. That will put off a lot of managers. 2 is this rolling 1-year contract. That will put off a lot of managers. If your stock's high and you've got a good reputation in the game, that wherever you've gone in, you've done a job. A 1-year rolling contract, you're probably going to go in and say, no, I'm worth more than that. I'm worth a 2 or 3 year deal for me to do what I do and build something. But for somebody like Paul Ince, who's 55 now, he's had 6 or 7 jobs. He's had a relative amount of success in one of those jobs early on in his career. Would he take the Wednesday job with these circumstances, with the budget restraints and the short-term deal? I think he would, simply because you get to a stage in your career where, you're running out of time. How many more opportunities are you going to get? And I think Wednesday, a big club in the Championship, even with it's probably going to be a mid-table budget, I think he'd leap at that opportunity to get his foot back in the door. Another name that's been bandied around is this Vito Campos. Now, I admit to knowing very little about him, other than he's a former semi-pro from over there in Portugal, former PE teacher, and he sort of made a name for himself doing the regional leagues over there. And again, as I said the other day in the video, I think English football is appealing to a lot of foreign managers because of the depth within the game over here. As I said, you can have teams here in the 3rd division getting 18,000-20,000 to a match. You know, the team he's managing over there in Portugal has done a very good job, got them promoted. Averaging gates of 7,500. You know what I mean? A lot of the foreign leagues don't have the depth, and I think England very much interests a lot of these international coaches. Did a good job over there, got a small, relatively unknown club up into the Premier League with a very small outlay on players, very small budget. As I said, they ain't got the TV money over there. 7,500 average gate, got them promoted to their Premier League and almost got them to Europe, which is pretty sensational a job he's done there actually. He's got a reputation for developing players. That's something that would interest Wednesday, I've got no doubt about that, because I'm trying to think of a time when we last developed a player and sold him on at a profit. If he could come in here and do that sort of thing, that would be very interesting towards a more stabilised business model, you know. Apparently he has thrown his name in the hat. Currently without a job, he left there at end of season. Is there something in the language barrier? People said the language of football. I think you've got to be able to get your message across though. I don't know how good his English is, and I think it does make a difference. I saw a very interesting, I don't know if you saw it, very interesting interview with Kieran Trippier the other day online. Was talking about Diego Simeone, obviously at Atletico, saying what a fantastic manager he is, this or that, and he said, a welcome addition he'd be to Premier League, do you think he'd do a good job here? And Trippier went, no, I'm not sure he would. Really rates him as a manager. He said, but a lot of him is his personality. His personality type, the way that he gets his message across, very passionate guy. And he said, obviously native Spanish speaking, he said there's some phrases that literally don't translate. And his way of going about his business in motivating players, he said, might not translate into second language and stumbling for words. So that really interesting. Go and watch it, very interesting. And like I said, Simone, terrific manager, done a great job over there. But one of his players who really rates him, like, I'm not sure England would suit him. And that's the thing, because we talk about coaching badges and this and that other, but management is about dealing with human beings at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, some's married, some have got kids, some maybe like the bottle, some are gamblers. You've got to get into the heads of the players. And what I'm looking for, whether it's any of these four, and it possibly this is just off the Bookies list, or whoever it is, it's got to be someone that I think I'd want to play for him. When I hear them talk, whatever the language, whatever they're from, whatever the background, whatever the clubs they've been at, or whether they've been in the game a short period of time, a long period of time, it's almost irrelevant. When I hear a new manager speak, I want to be able to look at him and think, I'd want to play for him. I'd want to go out on pitch and play for this bloke. I know he'd be able to motivate me, and that's half the job in football, is motivating players. So whether it's these or anyone else, I just want someone who's going to come in, whether they're a big name or not, or whether I've never heard of them, and think, yeah, I could play for this bloke. Yeah, Campos, like I said, not really heard of him before, but he's got a record of promotion over there. But then Jos Luhukay got a record of promotions from Germany. Things don't always translate. On the other hand, you know, who would ever heard of Arsene Wenger? Because I certainly hadn't before he rocked up at Arsenal. So you don't know. You never know until they arrive. And we've just got to hope that whoever it is can come in and work in these conditions and take Wednesday forward, one small rolling yearly contract at a time. Yeah, I don't think Gerrard will come. Not when he sees Lampard getting all these big jobs without doing anything. Actually, I said our lass could do a job at either at Old Firm clubs. I'm not sure Frank Lampard could. I mean, he keeps getting gigs in. I don't know.